Tonight, I want to bring you into my monologue, The Roots of the Revolt. And I'd like to start with this.
Welcome to Inside Politics. I'm Dana Bash. We start with destruction, violence, and hate on college campuses across the country. This was the scene just a short while ago at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Police clashing with protesters. 12 people were arrested. Hours earlier, protests rocked the University of Arizona, where campus police used chemical irritant munitions to remove protesters. Around the same time at UCLA, pro-Israel and pro-Palestinian groups were attacking each other, hurling all kinds of objects, a wood pallet, fireworks, parking cones, even a scooter. And before that, the NYPD was able to clear Columbia University after protesters barricaded themselves inside a campus building. 300 people were arrested at Columbia and City College of New York. But it is unclear how many were actually students. New York City Mayor Eric Adams warned this morning that professional outside agitators are getting involved.
There is a movement to radicalize young people, and I'm not going to wait until it's done and all of a sudden acknowledge the existence of it. This is a global problem that young people are being influenced by those who are professionals at radicalizing our children, and I'm not going to allow that to happen as the mayor of the city of New York.
Many of these protests started peacefully with legitimate questions about the war, but in many cases, they lost the plot. They're calling for a ceasefire. Well, there was a ceasefire on October 6th, the day before Hamas terrorists brutally murdered more than 1,000 people inside Israel and took hundreds more as hostages. This hour, I'll speak to an American-Israeli family whose son is still held captive by Hamas since that horrifying day that brought us to this moment. You don't hear the pro-Palestinian protesters talking about that. We will. Now, protesting the way the Israeli government, the Israeli prime minister is prosecuting the retaliatory war against Hamas is one thing. Making Jewish students feel unsafe at their own schools is unacceptable, and it is happening way too much right now.
I'm a UCLA student. I deserve to go here. We pay tuition. This is our school, and they're not letting me walk in. My class is over there. I want to use that entrance. Well, I can't take it. Will you let me go in? This could be over in a second. Just let me and my friends go in.
Again, what you just saw is 2024 in Los Angeles, harkening back to the 1930s in Europe, and I do not say that lightly. The fear among Jews in this country is palpable right now. Welcome to Inside.
And it is. There was a Jewish boy asking, can I go into my school? He was asking young women that were standing in his way that would not let him go into his classroom. Now, I don't care where you fall on what side of the aisle, but there's one thing for sure. That man is a Jew, or quote unquote, believes he is. We're not going to get into that argument tonight. But there he is trying to get to class, and he is being stopped. Now, I want you to listen to what the mayor has to say about these young Jewish people.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I know a lot of your focus now is on managing the city in a moment of crisis and these protests. I want to ask you about the original challenge, though, for the city and Columbia, and that is making Jewish students feel safe on Columbia University and in New York City. Can you tell us what that looks like?
We have one of the best police departments on the globe, if not the best, and dealing with a multitude of different moments is something that we are trained to do. And when you look at the actions that we have taken to address this issue, we're seeing an increase in hate crimes, graffiti and terminologies, but the assault on Jewish students is something that is just not happening.
The assault on Jewish students is something that is just not happening. Okay, sure. Just because you say it, got it. No matter what we see. So these college campus protests over the past couple of weeks against the right of the nation of Israel to exist has revealed a vile anti-Semitic ideology that has been simmering for decades. Now, the protest started right after October the 7th, whenever Israel was living in peace and they were violently massacred by Hamas. Now, supposedly, Hamas is right here on our soil, and they are declaring, we are Hamas. My question is this. If you are Hamas, that makes you an enemy combatant. Why are we treating them as students when by their own admission, they are Hamas? In their chants is death to America, from the river to the sea, and these people have literally intimidated our institutions of learning. And my question tonight is simply the same as President
The
Trump.
radical extremists and far-left agitators are terrorizing college campuses, as you possibly noticed, and Biden's nowhere to be found. He hasn't said anything.
So where is Biden? I'm going to explain to you tonight where Biden is. He's exactly where he was told to remain. We're going to dig in tonight and find out the roots of this plague that is taking over the United States of America. It's taking over so bad that here is your founding father. On this college campus. Sorry, that was not him. The George Washington statue there in that college campus that they have taken over is now graffitied with the F word and every other word out there. And now they're writing it and making it plain what their agenda is. They're telling you what they plan to do to the United States of America. Let Gaza live. Free tuition. We're taking over this campus. They're telling you that they're our enemies, and yet we allow our enemies, like crazy fools, we allow our enemies to literally take over our nation. Now, there was a situation with Lauren Babert when she was walking through there today.
We're blocking everyone else from blocking it, sir.
Stop! Excuse me, that's not her. Excuse me. This is kind of tough.
She sees the flag of Hamas waving on private territory. Watch this. This is the University of North Carolina. Look what's flying on sacred American soil. Look what's flying. The enemy's flag. Do you know what that meant in days gone by? And now they're taking it down, the chancellor is, and raising the flag of the United States again. For a moment, do you know that our flag was defeated by an enemy combatant? In case you need to see it again, there it flies in one of your institutions that your American tax dollars pays for. Right there, look, there it is. That is an enemy combatant on the soil of the United States of America. There is another flag that took the place of the American flag. There was another instance, I don't have the video, but there was another instance where a group of boys took the American flag today as it was falling to the ground, and they would not let it touch the ground because these animals that live among us was out to destroy the American flag. Now, I want to answer the question, what are the roots? As these pro-Hamas protesters, insurrectionists, are spreading around the nations, as radicalized students chant death to the Jews, death to America, long live Hamas, globalize the Intifada, at Columbia University, the protests have become so violent that school administrators are threatening to expel those who now occupy Hamilton Hall. And just so you can see what it looks like at Hamilton Hall, and so you can truly grasp and get an understanding of where we are living, this is what it looked like at Hamilton Hall. That is what Hamilton Hall looks like. A nation that is being invaded from within. Why does nothing stop these protesters? You've threatened to expel them. The police have arrested them. But there seems to be no deterrent. The question is why? I'm going to answer that question for you tonight. More than 100 Columbia students were arrested last month after they clashed with police. But the protests continue, even after 100 arrests. And the reason is because school administration is trying to deal with the fruit of the problem rather than the root of the problem. What they see growing on the tree of rebellion right now is their own fruit. Police crackdowns are not going to stop it. They're not going to stop the Hamas mindset. They're not going to stop the anti-Jewish, because the roots of this problem is not the lack of law enforcement. You cannot put enough law enforcement there to stop the problem. The problem is not October the 7th, what happened in Israel. That's not the problem. The root cause of what you see happening at our universities today is one word: the professors. Everything you see happening outside of the classroom is what has been taught to them inside of the classroom. While you were sleeping, while you didn't realize what was happening in your world. It's just like in the lead up to Adolf Hitler taking over Germany. In order to do that, educators began building a discrimination against the Jews before, listen to me, until a population gets afraid of a certain people like Maga, you cannot destroy them. So you have to systematically turn them into deplorables, that the world would be better off without them. Turn them into the scum of the earth. That's what Hitler's school did to the children, the young people. And the young people bring it home to mom and dad. Mom and dad want to be their friends. They don't want to correct their thinking. They want to support their children. So eventually the children convince mom and dad of what they have learned at school. What's happening today is the fault of professors. These professors tell impressionable students there is no one that anyone trusts more than their teacher, their professor. What do they tell them? They tell them that the October the 7th butchering of Israelis, the murder, the rape, the torture of women and children and babies was a quote unquote stunning victory of the Palestinian resistance. Where did they learn this? From the professors of these colleges. How did America's prestigious Ivy League universities become so radical? Do you really want to know the answer? If you do, you're about to learn it right now. Oh man, when you get down to the root of the problem, you'll find the reason for the fruit. Because just 5 years before the Summer of Love, 1968, 5 years before that, 1963, when they were protesting the Vietnam War, Columbia University, yes, the one that started this all that's happening, Columbia University in 1963 hired a teacher. I'll show you that teacher because you need to know where the roots are so you'll understand the fruit. That's the teacher. His name is Edward Said, S-A-I-D. He was a radical anti-colonialist. He was one of the first Palestinian American intellectuals to demand a two-state solution. That's him. What you see happening right now in these universities started in the lips of his mouth. It all started with the lips of his mouth. And guess what, my friend? In 1980, you'll never believe who sat in his class and allowed the snake poison to enter into his mindset. One guess who was in this man's class at Columbia University. Someone that is surprisingly saying nothing about his own alma mater. Someone that is surprisingly saying nothing. Let me see who can guess first. Charity Mills, 5 gold stars for you. Charity Mills, 5 gold stars for you. And by the way, I received your gift in the mail today. Thank you, Charity. You guessed it right. That was Obama's professor. That's him. The man that started it all. He hated the Jews and he taught Obama to hate them. Obama took an undergrad class with this professor. This was the source of Obama's opposition to a one-state Israel with a capital in Jerusalem. Now, the fact that Columbia would hire Said as a professor shows you that the administration of that university was already tilting against Israel in the 1960s and was thoroughly against Israel in the 1980s. Columbia's tilt did not stop. Said died in 2003. But guess what, ladies and gentlemen? In this year, Columbia endowed Edward Said Professorship of Modern Arab Studies. There was an endowment in his name for Arab studies, this man. And that endowment went to Rashid Khalidi. And guess who Rashid Khalidi is? One of Obama's, the dear leader, his dearest friend. Rashid Khalidi is now the holder of the Edward Said Professorship of Modern Arab Studies. And this man has accused the United States and Israel of committing genocide against the Palestinian people. So when you hear these students chanting, it's not the students. They're being arrested. It's not them. They are products of the snake. It's just like people hating me right now on Facebook, talking things. They don't know why they hate me. but they heard from the snake and decided they hated. Listen well. These children that are out there today, children that are willing to have a criminal record, they sat in a class and listened to a lie. And their parents didn't correct that lie. Parents was probably too busy at work to even know their children were being lied to. The only way you can know what your children's learning is at the dinner table. And since no one sits there anymore, when do you even talk to them? Someone said, hey, come visit me at my house so we can sit in the living room and look at our phone screens together. When these children are chanting, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. They are simply repeating what these professors have told them in the secrecy and the safety of a classroom that you paid for these children to go to. That's right. And my question tonight, by the way, if I could go down a rabbit hole real quick, since Biden is going to break all the laws and forgive all these debts, Khalid told Newsweek reporters on April the 29th, which was 4 days ago, there is nothing, and I quote, he said, there is nothing anti-Semitic about opposing a genocidal war in Israel. What does that tell you? There's Khalid. He's the professor. He just let it slip, Tater Chip, where these children learned it from his very lips. He said there's nothing anti-Semitic about this genocidal war, and we're going to talk about that genocidal war tonight. So if this is the professor saying it, the children are just the sad consequences. I want to make something plain to you tonight. Now, I'm going to make some of you upset at me right now because I just know you're out there. This anti-Semitism, it's not just happening with these professors. It is in our Maga movement. I have never seen Americans so against Israel. Now, hold on. Hold on a minute. I know some of you, I already know what you're saying. I can hear you. I'm the bionic man. I can hear you. You're saying, oh, but that's not the real Jews over there. You have totally missed the point, my friend. Take religion completely away from the matter. Okay? It doesn't matter if that's the real Jews or not. The state of Israel it's an ally of the United States of America. So no matter what your religious belief is, get over it and realize you are an American and we support our allies. Israel is a parliamentary republic that guarantees freedom for all religion in Israel. The only parliamentary republic in all of the Middle East. My dear friends, my fellow Americans, get off of these podcasts that are turning you against Israel. Now, I don't know if that's the real Jews over there or not. It may not be. But when it comes to statesmanship, when it comes to nations, I couldn't flip and care less if that's the real Jews. That nation is a nation that believes in the same principles that we pledge allegiance to in the United States. Oh, but okay, I'm fixing to get to that. Hang tight. I'm fixing to set you all straight. You're going to be so straight when we get done tonight. Some of you may have to repent. No matter what you think about the religious side of it, that is our ally, beloved friend. Those are their government. We claim that American government, we would die for it. Well, guess who America also dies for? Our allies. That is one of our allies. What crack are you smoking out there in the world today? I'm telling you, MAGA people have just as many podcasts against Israel. Whereas Gaza is a tyrannical Islamic theocracy run by criminals. Israel's counterstrike against Hamas terrorists in the immediate aftermath of the massacre is not a genocidal campaign against Palestinians. I'll tell you what it is. Are you ready to know what it is? It's every action having a reaction. That is what's happening right now in Gaza. Every action produces a react. They're dealing with the reaction that they started. Had there been no October the 7th, there would be no quote unquote genocide. Folks, when are we ever going to get back to the real world? In the real world, if you attack your neighbors and butcher their children, you're fixing to face hell on earth. And if you start crying about the hell you created, but you see, here's the thing about it. Here's the thing about it. Here's the way it works. If they cry loud enough, then we feel sorry for the criers and we join in with the criers. Do I like what's happening over there? Do I have no heart for the innocent Palestinians? Absolutely. I have so much heart for them that I think Israel should destroy every member of Hamas that brought this hell on top of their heads. Listen, folks, we have got, Julie, if we don't help them, they're coming to our borders. Ladies and gentlemen, what is this anti-Semitism even in the church? I don't care if they're the real Jews or not. That is so beside the point. They're our ally. Does ally not mean nothing anymore? What is an ally? An enemy of my friend is my enemy. Right? Hamas is the enemy of a parliamentary republic out there in the middle of Israel. Everything we say we don't believe in, everything that we're against, everything we say we don't believe in, we're supporting now? Is that where we are? Is that where we are in the world? That we compare a tyrannical Islamic theocracy to a democratically elected republic? Our friends, our allies? So you're saying Israel did no wrong? I didn't say that at all. I don't know what all Israel's doing behind the scenes, but I know this: we have a treaty, we have an agreement to protect them. I can't believe what I'm seeing, even in the MAGA world. Well, that's the synagogue of Satan over there. It may be. I don't know. Only God, if God let them back If God let the wrong people in there, then that's God's problem. I don't know what to tell y'all. That may not be, I'm not saying it is or it ain't. You understand? But I am fixing to tell you the truth of the matter. The truth of the matter is we are against Islamic revolution. We are against tyranny as Americans. As Americans. Oh, Millie said, I can't believe we're spending so much money on a bridge to help Gaza out. You're exactly right. What is happening to those poor, pitiful Palestinian people is not the results of Israel. It is the results of their own government. And if you can't see that, even Ray Charles knows that, can see it. When you hear professors calling this a genocide, then you know where these children think they're out there fighting against genocide. I mean, come on. Who can blame them? It's always the one that talks in the background. It's always the one that hides behind a screen name. It's always the one that doesn't come out. They just work everybody else up and make everybody else look like fools. Make people post things in their own name only a year from now to wish they would have never done it. Why? It all happens in the background, don't it? They will talk with no evidence, but that's okay. They know how to get you worked up and send you out there as their fool. When these professors say that's a genocide, guess who believes them? Your children that's in their classes. Can you blame them? Didn't you believe your professors? But here is the solution. If they had a mother and a father at home, that when these children come home talking this junk, parents could counteract it with the truth and stop some of this passion. You're exactly right, Laura Walker. Master manipulators. Israel, Nancy Ruff is so right. Israel is a free, democratic nation that respects all religions. So it would be like if Great Britain was being attacked by North Korea, right? And Great Britain responds to North Korea and wipes them off the face of the earth. And we're all over here crying, poor North Korea. It's so cruel. Grow up a little bit. Move back to Kansas and get out of Oz. When you strike a serpent, you're going to get bit. Julie, you're right. The parents have dropped the ball. We've allowed everything in the world to educate our children. And if North Korea attacks Great Britain, do we now start burning down schools because of how bad them people starving in North Korea? That's genocide. No, darling. No, darling. It's payback. And sometimes payback is the opposite of heaven. Jody, I've listened to that many times. You're so right, Jody. Paul Harvey's 1957, If I Was the Devil. Brothers and sisters, hold on now. It's not just them professors. It's right here on Rumble. Our MAGA podcasters. Well, don't y'all think that's really the devils over there in Israel? I don't care if they are devils. I don't care if they are. I'm an American. That's an American ally. We support our allies. End of discussion. Mm-mm-mm. Mm-mm-mm. Catherine Frank, she is a professor there. She said all Israeli students who served in the military are dangerous and should not be on college campuses. Let me tell y'all something. These statements is not about Jews or Palestinians. I'm going to tell you the root of it. It's the same battle that America has been fighting for 300 years. Freedom versus bondage. Freedom for all men. What it boils down to is tearing down the only functioning democracy in the Middle East and paving the way for a total Islamic takeover. Hamid Dabashi, a professor of Iranian studies at Columbia University, said these words. A professor. Every dirty, treacherous, ugly, and pernicious happening in the world. Just wait for a few days and the ugly name Israel will pop up in those atrocities. This is their professors. That's your root. That's your root. Kaum Ahmed, also a teacher at Columbia, labeled Israel a colonial settler state that has oppressed indigenous populations and displaced Palestinians. That's what these children are learning. But if someone would pay for their tuition to come to the conservative college, here's what I would teach them. Let's go back to Kaum Ahmed. What he told them. He said that Israel is a colonial settler state. Bonk, that's a lie. Okay? He said that they oppress indigenous populations and displace Palestinians. 3 lies that I'm fixing to blow out the water. Okay? Here's how we're going to do it. Real simple analogy. Oh, my time's gone. Oh, my Lord. Okay. Oh, what should I do? Okay, I'll try to run through this real fast. I own a home. I own a big estate. Okay, not that I do. I said, I'm assuming. I own a 1,000-acre estate. It's beautiful. It's breathtaking. And in my will, I write that this estate is to go to my sons when they turn 21 years old. Okay? I don't expect to die today. I expect to be alive when they turn 21. But if I do, this is who it's going to. So I die the next day, and my boys are only a year old. That leaves us 20 years for my boys not to be able to claim the land that I gave to them. So what happens in those 20 years? Squatters move in. And yes, they move in. They build houses. They build schools. They build grocery stores on my estate. They just move right on in. Yes, they read my will. They know that it was promised to my sons. But they don't care. They squat. So my boys finally turn 21 years old. And they go down to the estate and they say, all right, little squatters, hello, Mr. Squatter. Hi, Miss Squatter. Here, it's written right here in Genesis 4:12 that I'm my Father in heaven that owns the earth, that created it. It's his land. It's his earth. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. He gives and takes away whomever he wants to. Hello, Mr. Squatter. We've got a little contract here that says that this sort of belongs to us. And they couldn't care less. So my boys have to go down to the sheriff's office. They show the sheriff. Sure enough, it's their land. from way back before the squatters ever moved in. So what does that mean old settling, colonial settler sheriff do? Well, low down, he puts on his shotgun and brings a few deputies with him that's got bullets in their pocket. And they go down there to enforce the law. And here's what it says. Just because you build houses here, just because you moved here, I'm sorry that you didn't read the contract before you did all that, but you got to go. And they're like, no, we're not leaving. So what happens? They pull out their guns. The sheriff pulls out theirs. At the end of the day, the sheriff wins the war. And what happens to the squatters? You guessed it. That's called colonial settlers. No. That's called the laws of war. And here's how it works. To the victor goes all the spoil. So these lies that you're telling, that these were colonial settlers that oppress indigenous populations, no. They remove squatting populations. Learn the difference. They don't displace anyone. They simply replace who was supposed to be there the entire time. Now, there was a war. After Yahweh drove out his children from that land in AD 70, he had a contract with them that one day he would regather them to that land. It's been written down a long time. And the Muslims claim to believe the Bible. It was right there in their Bibles. Choices have consequences, do they not? And one day, the Ottoman Empire that had ruled that area for generations, yes, the Palestinian people lived there for generations. Yes, no argument there. But the problem is there's no ancient museum of art for the Palestinian people. There's no ancient artifacts. There is for the Israeli people. We're finding them every day with David's picture on the coins and Solomon. So we know who was there. They were driven off, but they had a promise. So one day there was a war. The war was between the Ottoman Empire and the other nations. In that war, guess what happened? The Ottoman Muslim Empire lost embarrassingly to the greater conqueror. Yes, the poor old colonial settler. Rename it whatever you want to. You can rename a boy a girl, but you can't change the facts. These colonial settlers won the war. You could not defend your land. So what happened? Go read the newspaper. The Ottoman Empire did what? Everybody say this word with me real loud. Wake up. The Ottoman Empire did what? Surrendered. Surrendered. They surrendered. They surrendered. What does that mean? They gave up. They had no more claim to the land they lost. And these indigenous people were now at the mercy of the victor. Who was the victor? General Allenby of Great Britain. And who was Great Britain? The half-brother of the tribe of Judah. They're the lost tribes of Israel. Isn't it amazing that after all those years, Yahweh gave that land back to Joseph, Ephraim, and Manasseh? He never gave it to the Jewish people. Not to this day. He gave it to the lost tribes of Israel. Now, what did we do? Exactly what Jacob prophesied we would do in Genesis chapter 49. What is that? He told Ephraim and Manasseh that they would give to Judah. And that's exactly what they did. General Allenby And the United Nations agreed that both the Palestinians and the Jewish people could live in that land, and they invited the Jews home. How, in the name of God, is that colonialism? That is simply the way of the world. 3 years ago, I made a video on my Professor TOTO show. 3 years ago. And before I play it, I told you so. Oh, I told you so. Here's what I said to President Trump. Tonight, we're going to be talking about MEGA, M-E-G-A, not MAGA, but MEGA. President Trump created MAGA, but Professor TOTO created MEGA. Make education great again. I believe that is the winning ticket for our president on his triumphant return very soon. I said 4 years ago his triumphant return. I've been telling you he'll be back. MEGA must become his message. I don't know who's watching me tonight that knows how to get a hold of President Trump. Education will win him this election. It will go into that 20%, 40, 40, 20. It will get the mom. It will get those that don't even like him, because people don't care how much they don't like you. They like their children, okay? They like their children. We must make education great again. We must. Listen, if not, you're going to have to pull your children out. Now, why do I say that? Let me show you why I say that. My dear friend, your children are no longer safe in the government schools of America. And here is your evidence. The Satanic Temple has announced a plan to deploy ministers in every school. The Satanic Temple announced plans to deploy its ministers as chaplains in schools across Oklahoma following the recent legislation. Senate Bill 36, which allows volunteer chaplains, and it's only starting in Oklahoma. There is the press release from the Satanic Temple that they are coming for your children. Get them out. Get them out. Get them out. Why? If not, you see those children tonight destroying America? Yours will be right there with them. Why? They're believing a lie, but they think it's truth. My grandmother, God rest her soul, told me one of the greatest words of wisdom. She said, I told her one time that someone lied. Somebody had said something ugly about my grandmother. And it hurt me so deep because I knew the truth. I knew my grandmother. And she looked at me, and instead of getting on Facebook and doing some passive aggressive stuff, she looked at me and said these words. She said, son, they must really believe that. Someone's convinced them of that. And you know, I live by those words. Anybody that's followed me lately, you know the attack that we are under. And people ask me, why don't I ever get mad? Why don't I ever respond? Here's why. My grandmother's words ring in my ears. They believe that. Someone's convinced them of that. Tonight, I want you to pray for those rioters in the streets, because they didn't ask for this. It was fed to them, and there was no parents at home to help them know the truth. Pray for them tonight. They are victims of voices. Voices that they trusted, And now they're making fools out of themselves. And if you're not careful, you'll make a fool out of yourself by listening to voices without knowing the truth. Thank you for watching. God bless you. Good night.